Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you've had a really great and amazing week. For those of you, thanks for those who are starting to join here. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from today. For those of you who are new or do not know, I do reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. Um, okay, so a couple things before I get started today. Let me just go back for a sec. For those of you who are new to Mental Health Moment, essentially, Mental Health Moment is about how do you become the best version of yourself so you can show up powerfully for yourself and for those people around you. So each week, we generally go through different mental wellness tips for you to achieve those goals, your self-care and your mental health and wellness goals. And actually, well, continuing from now until the end of the year, I will be going through different chapters of my new book, Mindset Training, Conquer Your Mind, and the Rest Will Follow. If you have not already gotten your copy, it is on Amazon. It's on Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, and a bunch of other online outlets. So be sure to grab your copy if you haven't already. Mindset Training, Conquer Your Mind, and the Rest Will Follow. And as I mentioned, I will be going through today chapter 4 and 5, but different chapters up until the end of the year to go over the book. So again, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. And also if you want to get more information about the book, it is at mindsettrainingbook.com. You can learn more about the book there, and also the links of where to go and purchase your copies there as well. The other thing I wanted to mention is from last week, I had promised you guys I would give you more information about, because some of you have asked where I'll be speaking next. That is actually open to the public, and that will be on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024 at, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a virtual engagement that I'll be doing. I'll be on a panel. It's called Mastering the Balancing Act, Women's Wellness in a Fast-Paced World. So again, it is Wednesday, December 18th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. It's for about an hour, and I'll be discussing some different strategies related to burnout prevention on that panel that day for International Association of Women. I will be putting the information to register on there pretty soon on my website, drnekeshiahammond.com. So if you're able to make it, again, this one is open to the public. Okay, so I think those are all my announcements. Okay, y'all. And by the way, thank you all. So let me back up 3 steps before I go into today's mental health moment. Thank you all for those of you who did already purchase the book. I really, really appreciate the support, love and support. Some of your comments, some of your DMs about the books. Thank you for sharing that. What matters most, I'm grateful that you purchased the book, but what matters most to me when I hear just the different feedback and things like that is that this information is helpful for you. As an author, I really want this information to help you, obviously, and I've heard really positive things. So I'm grateful that this information can be helpful to you in your mental health and wellness journey. And also, if you don't have the book already, and whether or not you plan to purchase it, I'll be here on Mental Health Moment for the rest of the year talking about the book and the different chapters, like I said. So be sure to tune in. If you ever miss a week, you can always go on Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube. We'll have the replays on there and get the information, but I'll be doing quick overviews just so you have that information and some additional things that were not necessarily in the book as well. Okay, so today on Mental Health Moment, I'm going to go through chapters 4 and 5. So this section is part 2, mental self-care. Chapter 4 is about positive self-talk. This is a huge thing, you all, because I can't express how important it is for you in some way to be working on your positive self-talk, because it's really easy for us to tell ourselves a lot of harsh and negative things on a frequent basis. But if we take the time to recognize what our thoughts are and work on changing even some of them, we can't change every single thought we have. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts. It can really be more impactful in a good way in your life. So there's a couple different techniques. Excuse me. One of the things that I mentioned in chapter 4 was just how you guys know the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want them, treat others how you want to be treated. But also, the thing is that we often never thought about how do we really treat ourselves, right? Like, what's the rule on how do we treat ourselves? And I believe that you deserve to treat yourself well. And what I mean by that is the things that you're saying to yourself, right? Because your thoughts are very, very powerful, as I mentioned here. So, one of the things that I really stress in this chapter is that you are allowed to make mistakes, you all. You you are allowed to forgive yourself for mistakes that you make. Not There's none of us that are perfect, right? So, though, what can happen sometimes is that when you make whatever mistakes you're going to make or have already made, we can tend to dwell in those mistakes instead of working on a place of self forgiveness, instead of working on a place of grace, especially when there's different things that may have happened to you to cause you to make that mistake. There's different things that are outside your control. There's a lot of different factors, but it's really important for you to think about. Um, just as I wrote here, you're allowed to make mistakes, so give yourself grace and forgiveness. And again, for 99% of what I put in this book, this is not an overnight process. I wish it was, but it's not. Right? Like, it takes time sometimes, and that's okay. That's what I mean too by giving yourself grace. It takes time. Um, so here's a couple of strategies that I put in the book. And when it comes to positive self-talk, I do want to always emphasize, I probably say this every mental health moment when I talk about this book, that this is one thing to add into your toolkit, right? So my mindset training book is one item to add into your toolkit of how do you become a better version of yourself? How do you work on your mental health? How do you work on your wellness? And is not a substitution if you need the help of a mental health professional sometimes, because especially when it comes to the way we talk to ourselves, that can be linked to a lot of different things. It could be linked to something even going all the way back to your childhood. It could be something someone said to you yesterday. I mean, it could be a lot. It comes from a lot of different places. It could come from trauma. It could come from your own experiences and your perception of it. But the point is, you live in your thoughts, right? And you have an opportunity to change those thoughts. So the first strategy for you to think about is your self awareness. So that's becoming aware, as I mentioned earlier, of your negative self talk. There's different ways to do this. It it becomes easier with time. It's not always easy in the beginning to really look at your thoughts, look at your like sort of like the themes that you tell yourself often. So usually it's I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not something enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not small enough. I'm not good enough. Like, there's all these things like we just start to tell ourselves, which leads to a lot of negative self thinking. And then sometimes it leads us, I mean, it's kind of spirals us down, right, in our thought process. So, in order to avoid all of that, it's important for us to work on number one, recognizing where your negative thoughts lie and what are the themes that are coming up for you. Number two is to replace your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. What are some good things about you, right? Because you all, it's so easy. Let me know. Okay, so be honest with yourself right now. Let me know in the comments, type the word critic if you feel like you have this strong inner critic. So just type the word critic. If you find yourself like constantly focusing on your negative, or constantly focusing on your weaknesses, or constantly thinking about what you should have done differently, like, that's called a very strong inner critic. But the good news is you can work on replacing some of those thoughts, right? And it's normal. Like you, of course, we're going to be critical of ourselves, but also it's important for us to be thinking about what are good things that you're good at, or what are good things that you have, right, about you? What are your strengths? Write those things down sometimes. If you need the reminder sometimes, write those things down, keep them with you. So, in case you're just not tuning in, we are going through my newest book, Mindset Training, Conquer Your Mind, whoop, and the rest will follow. Hopefully, you can see that without the glare. Um, and we're on chapter 4, which talks about the like really how to get more into positive self thinking, right? So, number one, become aware of your negative self talk. Two, replacing those negative self talk, and then three, the one of the things that I think is really important for you to remember is that I know this is not the easiest thing to do, but you work on getting to a place where you're not blaming yourself so much, because the blame I have heard, man, of all the stories that I've heard like I feel like I've heard so many people blame themselves like over and over and over and over instead of working on thinking about what are my strengths? What are the things I'm good at? Right? Like we all have strengths. We all have things we're good at. So why not choose to focus on those things even in the midst even while you're dealing with the negative self-talk, if that makes sense. I want you to understand we're all at a different place in our mental health and wellness journey, and it's all good. Wherever you're at, it's all good. The fact that you're here today, yay, I celebrate for you, because that means you're like, you know what? Let me try to learn something to better myself. Like that is a very powerful place to be when you're at a mindset where you're like, let me learn how to be better. Let me learn how to be better than I was yesterday. Let me learn this mental health tip, this wellness tip. That's a great place to be in a place where you're like, let me learn this information. So good for you. Okay, so I'm obviously going fast here because I could give you a 3 hour lecture, which we won't be doing today on this book. So that's in a nutshell, chapter 4. There's, other things for you to think about from this chapter. But again, I want to provide a high level overview of some of these chapters. Okay, chapter 5, clearing your mental clutter. So let me know in the comments, do you feel, let me see. Okay, let me give you a description too about this first. So many people have ideas swimming around in their heads. Is this you? Put yes in the comment if this is true. Maybe some of these ideas that you constantly have swirling in your head are something that happened in the past, something that's going on in your present moment that you're stressed out about, or some thoughts and concerns about your future. So, do you have any of that going on where you feel like you have these thoughts swirling around, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out? If you do, let me know. Just put yes in the comments. But yeah, let me know and put yes in the comments if that is you. And again, let me remind you all, our mental health moment with Dr. Hammond. This is a no judgment zone. So whether you're like, yes, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed, or you say, yes, I'm in the best place ever mentally in my life, it's all good. Right? First, we have to recognize and be honest with ourselves. Then we have to work on certain things to be in a better place, right? But at first, it does take honesty. So, okay, so here's one tip. Again, there's a lot of things we can do. One tip to think about, what I call clearing your mental clutter. And basically, one of the things that's really helpful is to you okay, let me just kind of sum up this chapter here. You work on ways to release, if you will, the mental clutter in your head. There's a lot of ways to do it. You have to do what works best for you. I'm going to give you some examples of things you can try if you haven't already, but we all sort of clear our mental clutter in different ways. So, one of the ways, for example, is journaling. So, if you're a person you like to write out your feelings, or you like to write out what you're angry at somebody, or you're upset about something, or you wish something happened, or you have whatever it is going on, and you're a person that literally likes to physically write it out, or maybe type it in some type of journal or use an app or something like that. A lot of people actually benefit from journaling. That might be you. And so journaling is one way, again, to sort of work on releasing the emotions, or maybe it's frustrations, or maybe they're just some thoughts that you're like, I need to get them out, right? That's one way to do it. The other way, there's a couple ways in here, and I'm going to share with you some ways that are actually not in this chapter as well as a bonus. But another way, something I do often actually is called a brain dump. Another way to think about like how do you kind of get rid of that mental clutter is what I call a brain dump. Uh, and it's something I do often actually personally, but it's where you can get some sort of sheet of paper and just literally start to. It's not the same as journaling necessarily, but it's just like it could be things that you just need to get out in that moment. Maybe it's a to-do list, but in more detail, like writing out all the things you need to do, writing out all the thoughts that are in your head. Maybe you have a lot of things going on in your family life or with your friends or with your work, or maybe you're retired, like whatever it is for you that you're like, I have all these things swimming in my head, get them out and on paper, right? Like get them out of your head. It doesn't mean it's going to automatically stop you from worrying about all the things in your head, but it just allows you to have a temporary mental break from those things, frankly, and work on clearing out your mental clutter. So those were two examples, the brain dump, journaling, but also on the physical side, which is really good, there's physically things you can do as well to work on sort of clearing out some of the mental clutter, or a lot of different forms of exercise. And I actually didn't talk about that in this chapter in the book, but I'm sharing it with you that you can, again, walking or gardening, or maybe if you're a runner, hiking, swimming, biking, like however you use movement, that's also a way sometimes to temporarily just deal with all the mental clutter, work on releasing the stress from your mind and your body. That is your goal, right? Work on it's not that because we can't always control things that happen around us. Um, Sometimes we just can't control. Life is gonna life, right? Like there's different things that's gonna happen, but what you can control is working on how are you getting rid of that stress? How are you getting rid of that mental clutter? So again, physically, you can do certain things in movement to try to release that stress from your body and mind, or also things like my brain dump or journaling or those types of activities. It could be if you like drawing, if you like painting, like whatever it is for you that you need to be like, okay, let me be proactive and trying to deal with all this mental clutter I have. Those are the activities that I encourage you to engage yourself in. Okay, so that was a very quick overview of chapter 4 and 5. I do want to just read to you something and remind you that your thoughts are incredibly powerful. So use them wisely. I'm going to leave you with that this week. I There's so much research. There's so much information. I probably could talk for 5 hours on that, which I won't be doing on this mental health moment, but your thoughts are extremely powerful. Please watch what you say about yourself and to yourself. Please become more aware of the thoughts that you allow yourself to believe that are not necessarily even true. Just because you think something does not make it true. There's a lot of times that we lie to ourselves, especially when you're sad, especially when you're angry, especially when you're anxious, when you're in strong emotions. You can totally distort everything around you, including your view of yourself. So please be cautious of when you are making certain decisions when you're in a stronger emotional state to begin with, but also being more aware of your thoughts and care being more careful of the things that you say to yourself and about yourself. Um, so okay, so that's 4 and 5 in a nutshell, and then we're going to continue obviously next week with chapter 6. For those of you who just tuned in, I've been talking about, if I can put up here, mindset training, conquer your mind, and the rest will follow, which is my newest book. We're going to complete this book actually by the end of this year. So I'll be going through the different chapters each week until the end of 2024. And again, if you want to get more information about the book, it's mindsettrainingbook.com. It tells you where you can pick up a copy: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, and Books a Million, and all sorts of other online outlets. Trying to think of any other announcements. I gave you the announcement at the beginning. If you, like I said, if you miss any mental health moments and you're like, I really wanted to hear this information about a certain chapter or whatnot, you can always go to Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube. I'll have all the replays on there for you if you need to refer back to any of the chapters in the book. I think that's it. Yeah, for today, and I will be back. So I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your week. Again, for this week, please, please, please be more aware of your thoughts, of your positive thoughts. Start to not only read this information or highlight it or whatever it is that you need to do, but also be sure to implement this into your life as well. And then you can start to see, even if you have to take baby steps, you'll start to see the changes in your life. So have an amazing rest of your week again. Be blessed, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.